So welcome to week one of the 2016 rookie conference calls. For those of you who haven't been on the ones prior to the season, my name is Jason Marcassino, and I am a mentor on Team Rush 27 out of Clarkston. And with me are Clinton Brandt.
I'm Bollinger. I am the lead team organization and team management mentor for Team 2337 out of Grand Blanc, Michigan. Clint?
And I'm Clinton Bollinger. I handle the robot side of things, and I'm the field coach for Team 2337.
Okay, so Brandy sent out an agenda earlier today, or earlier this week. So we'll start with that, and then take some questions. So Brandy, do you want to go ahead and
the call where if you guys have been on before, we've kind of had more of an open forum. This is kind of the week where we really start structuring our calls a little bit to try to pack in as much information as possible for you guys in the hour that we get you, so that you are prepared each week of what you should be doing this week and what you should be preparing for next week. When you guys will be getting the call notes, they're going to be the agenda expanded with all of the information that we covered during the call. So it's going to look like a lot of information when you receive the notes. There's going to be a ton of words, a ton of links, everything. So a lot of you guys after the last couple calls have sent questions looking for certain information. So if you guys just take the time to look through the notes, or even, use a search function or a find function in the notes to look for the keywords that you're looking for. Before you guys shoot us an email, it'll save you a lot of time and save us a lot of time too. We do our best to make sure that we can present you guys with all the information that's going to be necessary. However, if you do have any questions beyond the notes, please don't hesitate to ask us. We'll do our best to find the information that you need. So basically how we're going to break down the calls from here on out is we're going to divide the call into two sections. The first part of the call will be the robot-related tasks, and this will be where we cover everything that your lead robot person should be working on this week, the things that they should be ordering, the things that they should be prepping for, the things that they should be working on the robot, and the things that they should be discussing with your team. The second half of the call will be focusing on more of your team management and organization tasks. Again, those same tasks, but for your team management mentor, because we realize that especially with rookie teams, your teams can be very divided, and you want to be able to delegate your tasks and tackle them as efficiently as possible. Then at the end of the call, we'll go over things that you need to start thinking about for the next week, and then also cover any questions that any of you guys might have. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Jason and Clint are definitely more robot people than me. I definitely handle all of the team management type tasks. So I will be just bringing up what the topic is, and then Clinton and Jason will chime in with the importance of doing these things. So the first thing that we're going to cover is reading the rules. Clint, if you want to unmute yourself and talk a little bit about the importance of reading the rules. While he's doing that, in the notes, you guys will find links to the updates for the rules in the Q&A forum. So, Clint, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So the common example I give always is if everyone was to go and have never learned how to play soccer, and we were to go out and play soccer, but you're not allowed to read the rules first, the first thing you'd probably do is pick up the soccer ball with your hand and throw it in the goal. Well, you can't do that in soccer because that's, not allowed by the rules. So the same thing goes for robotics. You need to make sure you understand the rules, and there's really actually four main parts of the rules that you need to understand. The first part being the arena. How is the arena laid out? What are the different measurements and sizes, for the objectives you're trying to do, and how the points are scored. The second one is the game rule section. That tells you what you are explicitly allowed to do and what you are explicitly not allowed to do. There might be certain times you can interact with a field element in certain areas and game pieces where other areas you might not be able to. Then the last, probably the toughest one is probably the robot section. That is all the rules to legally build your robot. So, you know, it's telling you what size wire you have to use on certain circuits. You know, if you have a 40 amp circuit, you know, what size wire can you use, 30 amp, so on. It also tells you, you know, your frame perimeter, how to measure that, what it has to be within to get through inspection. It's probably the longest section you have. However, it's probably one of the most important because when you're at competitions, you got to pass inspection, and it's all going to be from that robot section. And the last one, most people probably overlook a little bit, is the tournament section. However, if your plan is to win an event and go home with a nice little medal around your neck and a big blue banner, you have to understand the tournament section because that's going to tell you how you're going to rank, how line selections are going to work, and how the eliminations portion of the game is going to, you know, play out. And you have to understand that, but a lot of people overlook that. So that's rules.
So the Q&A forum, would you like to explain a little bit about what the Q&A forum is?
Yeah, sure. The Q&A forum, I think, just opened up either yesterday or today. I forget which day it opened up. The game design committee allows for people to go in with your TIMS account, gives you a username and password for the first Q&A, question and answer. Your team can submit questions pertaining to certain portions of the rules and get clarification on them or ask questions that might be questionable. Sometimes they'll give you a direct answer saying yes or no. So far what I've seen this season, they're doing a really good job of being very forward and telling you the answer to the question, where sometimes in the past they'll say something like, we can neither confirm nor deny that, please refer to the rules. So it allows for your team to be able to ask questions before you get to competitions to get clarifications on rules in the rule book. But also make sure you check the rules first before asking the question, because a lot of times if it's directly explicitly said in those sections that I talked about previously, they're just going to tell you, please look at rule R6 or something like that, and they expect you to go read it out of the rule book.
So it'd be good, too, to have or select one of the students on your team or another mentor on the team to be like your rules expert and have them log in and check what's on the forum. And then another thing that Clint was probably just going to start talking about is the team updates. So those are still coming out, what, Tuesday and Friday? Or they haven't set a time?
Tuesday, it's supposed to be Tuesday and Friday around 5-ish. The first update, I think, came out at like 6 or 7 o'clock, but it's supposed to be around 5 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays. You know, even be sure you check these updates during your competition season where you're going to events, because they might release a firmware update for your Robo Rio or for something else, your classmate, that you have to have at that week's competition. So you got to make sure you're looking at it through the entire season.
Yep. So yeah, selecting one person to be like the single point of contact to understand that and be able to translate that to the rest of the team is a good idea.
All right. Does anyone have any questions about the rules or the Q&A forum or rule updates before we move on to robot strategy?
He wanted to clarify a rule. This is what we happens. I'm not sure if I'm getting it right. A team that crosses the defense weakens it, but crosses the defense does not. Another team must further weaken it.
You were kind of choppy. My guess of what you were asking was about the defenses of people crossing it. I think I picked up from that about, like, if you cross it, do you weaken it? And if others go across it, do they also weaken it? The answer to that is yes, but make sure you understand the definition of what crossing means. Crossing currently means you have to be in the neutral zone, not touching the defense. Then you can proceed to touch the defense, cross over through the outer works into your opponent's courtyard, and then when you are no longer touching that defense, it is counted as crossing. And you need to have that happen twice in order to defeat the defenses, and that can be by your robot twice, or you and another robot, or your two alliance members and you didn't do anything with defense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Not a problem.
Any other questions about the rules or updates or Q&A forum?
Yeah, we had a question.
All of the links? Sure, go ahead.
We had a question about Rule R18. It talks about you have access to a withholding allowance of fabricated items. What exactly does that mean?
So that one we'll definitely talk about later in the season. Basically, you're allowed to have 30 pounds of weight to withhold. So let's just say your shooter mechanism or your intake mechanism weighs 30 pounds. You're allowed to withhold that, keep it, keep working on it, and then when you go to your competition, you can bring that 30 pounds in. Now, however, you got to be cautious, because if you have 30 pound, a 30-pound intake, you take it off, and then you come in with that 30 pounds and you want an additional 30 pounds of upgrades, you're not allowed to bring that because you already used your weight allocation for your intake, okay? So let's say you bag your whole robot with 120 pounds and you didn't hold anything back. When you go to the first event, you can come in with a 30-pound upgrade, right? You kept working on a new intake design and you're going to hot swap it off. That would then be legal to do in that sense, if that's clear, I guess.
Yeah, because our thought was if we put a certain size wheels on our robot and then we bag it, we're done, and then we decide to do something different with different size wheels, we could swap those out at the competition.
So make sure you understand with the withholding allowance what is considered that. If you have a cost item, a commercially off-the-shelf item, that is not considered part of your withholding allowance because there is nothing custom about that. You could go to a store and buy it. So if you have 6-inch wheels on your robot and you bring in 8-inch wheels that are unmodified, that would be perfectly to bring in as spare parts and not count as your withholding allowance.
Okay, so withholding allowance is more towards something that you have custom built or fabricated yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is a good opportunity, your 30 pounds, for you to work on something that you have not completed yet. So we will, later on in the season, once it gets closer to stop build day or bag day, as we call it in Michigan, we will go into greater detail about this and actually go into a lot of discussion about your withholding allowance, the difference between upgrade parts and your withholding allowance, those kind of things. Thank you for reading the rules and making sure that you knew about stuff. That's awesome. You're on the right track. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is robot strategy. This is one topic that Clinton definitely cannot talk enough about. So we are going to give you guys a brief overview of some strategies that we believe you guys should take into consideration as a rookie team. Please bear in mind that these are not going to be this is not going to be the complete list of every strategy that you could possibly do. But strategy should always be based on your resources, so we're going to go a little bit into that. Clint? Did we lose Clint?
Hey, Brandy, can you cover for me?
Sure. Yep.
Can you cover me for a little bit?
All right.
Okay.
I can talk a little bit about it. So yes, like Randy was saying, it depends kind of on your resources. As a rookie team, not to get too overloaded and too deep into the designs. Some of the suggestions would be, well, number one suggestion is try to get a moving chassis. So if you went to the Engineered's chassis workshop, you should already have a moving chassis. And then try to test that chassis out on some of the defenses. There are some defenses that chassis will work just fine getting over. There's other defenses that chassis is going to have a hard time getting over. And think about maybe making some modifications to the chassis. In the notes, I included a video of a group of people that are in Montreal, Canada. They did a couple different tests with basically the kit chassis with different size wheels, which is pretty eye-opening, and how well those went over the, if we're going to call them like simple defenses, the defenses that you drive over. Other things, again, to keep it simple, is if you can make your robot go under the low goal or under the low bar. That's, I think, going to be an important feature of the field this year that I'm not sure that everyone's going to, a lot of people that are going to do. But able to get under that and back and under that and back could be very advantageous for an alliance to have a partner like that.
I'm back, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I had to get food before robotics, so sorry about that. Anyways, the situation that he was talking about, the first question that I usually like to talk about when talking about the game is that, what is your objective? Your objective is to, win the competition, right? The next question is, how do you win the competition? The answer for that is you want to rank high so that you get the best pick in the alliance selection to be able to get the guy you want who's going to help you win. The way to do that is you have to understand the ranking, which in order to rank high, you need ranking points. There's 3 ways to get ranking points in this year's game. 1, you win the match, you get 2 ranking points. If you if you tie, you get 1 ranking point. So you either get the 2 or the 1. Then you can also get a ranking point by breaching or capturing the tower. So you need to understand breaching and capturing the tower. For rookie teams like yourselves, I would highly, highly recommend you try to be a master of something instead of trying to be a jack of all trades and the master of none. You actually want to focus on something. Some of the stuff that Jason talked about is going to be very advantageous. When you first start out, try to make sure you can maybe go under the low bar over some of the B category and D category defenses, which are the ones that don't move at all, they're just stationary. And then the last thing that you might want to look at is a way to acquire a ball and move it from one area of the field to the other. Now, when doing that, you're going to want to try to have something more than just a pincher. Maybe have something like a rolling intake so that when you run into the ball, you acquire it and have possession. The last point I want to make about this is the low bar. Please understand that it does say in the rules that it's 16 inches high. However, there's a ramp and there's an approach. That 16 inches is not always 16 inches when you approach it. It's more like 14. So be careful that you don't design a robot to be exactly 16 and it runs into the bar and then not able to complete the task. Okay? Can you guys cover for me for a little bit more?
Yep. So along with that, what Clint was saying, talking about the ways you get ranking points. One way to get ranking points is to capture the tower. So in order to capture the tower, you need to get all 3 robots, at least on the opposing team's batter, which is the area around the tower. So you want to make sure that your robot can at least drive up those ramps. And there's a piece of material at the back of the ramp to hold your robot up so it doesn't roll back down. But you want to make sure that you can at least get through to the other side and get onto that ramp to help your alliance get the capture points. So you don't have to hang; you just have to be on that batter in order for your whole alliance to get those points. Then going back to what Clint was saying, if you could make a robot that can just do the 2 simple defenses or the B and D categories, where you can drive over them and you can drive over the low bar, and you can do that 6 times. There's three defenses that are breached, so your alliance partners really only need to go through one of the other defenses, and then you get your breach ranking point. So this is a little bit different from previous years. In previous years, you just usually got the point for the win and no points for the loss and a point for the tie, or 2 points for the win, no points for the loss, and 1 point for the tie. So this year, FRC has added in the couple other ways to get ranking points. And these same things also will count for points in the playoffs.
And also note that when you go across a defense and you weaken it, it's also worth points. So each time you weaken a defense by one, we'll just call it 1 hit point, it's considered 5 points. So if you do it twice and you actually defeat a defense, that would be a total of 10 points that you earn. So you're also, by breaching defenses, getting your team closer to getting the breach, defeating defenses, you'll get closer to breaching, which will give you that ranking point plus getting points to win the match.
So yeah, so then after that, like I said, manipulating the boulders and getting them into the low goal would kind of be another focus once you feel pretty confident that you can get over the defenses and at least get yourself onto the batter. So again, that would help getting boulders onto the other side. Hey Clint, do you think there may be a need for a team that could get boulders just over to the other side?
Absolutely. I think a breaching robot who can take a boulder every single time you go back to the neutral zone, you grab a boulder and you bring it with you to the opponent's courtyard is going to be extremely valuable. If you have a team who is very good and maybe they shoot 100% or 90% accurate in the high goal, they need ammunition, right? And if you can be the one to provide them that ammunition and help take down the defenses, they'll keep taking the balls you bring them, put them into the high goal, and while you and maybe another opponent are bringing in balls and breaching the defenses. So you could have 2 guys bringing boulders to the offensive guy and breaching the defenses might be a really good combination you might even see in the eliminations win events. So yeah, ball handling, after going over the defenses, I think ball handling and moving it from the neutral zone, actually from your courtyard or the neutral zone or your secret passageway to your opponent's courtyard would be a valuable asset. And the other note I want to say also is be very, very careful and cautious about the high goal. The high goal is very tempting. It's 5 points per ball. However, you have 1 ball, you have 1 shot. If you don't make that ball in 1 shot, you are adding additional time that is preventing you from taking down additional defenses, putting additional balls into the goal, multiple other things. So never underestimate, this year especially, the low goal and its value of being able to just put in the low goal, get your 2 points, move on to the other defenses so that you can get the breach, so you can get the capture, and all the other stuff.
Right, and it's only a 3-point differential, so you're not really losing that many points. And like I said, if you can go back and forth 8 times with a ball each time and put it into the low goal, then you've taken down that tower. So that, again, helps your alliance. Are there any...
oh,
go ahead.
The same thing, the last comment about it is also scaling. Be careful about scaling. I know that in the point structure, it says that scaling is worth 15 points. However, our team evaluates it as it's not really 15 points. It's a 10-point bonus to challenging the tower. If you just drive onto the tower, you get 5 points for doing that. However, if you scale it, you then get quote-unquote 15 according to the rules. Well, you either get the 5 challenging or the 15 scaling. You don't get both. So at that point, your differential is only worth 10 points. So scaling is only worth 10 points, which is the same as crossing a defense. So if in the amount of time it would take you to scale, you could have crossed another 2 defenses, it might not be worth it to have that feature or that mechanism on your robot. You know.
So yeah, so one of the discussions that we had in our strategy session is, you know, when is it more beneficial to try to go cross another defense to get your breach rather than trying to spend the time climbing? So that's something that you guys have to kind of look at and think about, is like Clint was saying, sometimes it's better to just abort the climb and go and do another defense to get your breach and get that
during qualification, it's always better to go for the breach than the climb. Because you get a ranking point that way.
Yep. You get a point no matter what. All right, is there any questions on that? Okay, so move on to inventorying your kit of parts. So basically everyone got a kit. There's a list, I believe, online of all the parts that should be in the kit. Make sure that you have all the parts that are expected to be in the kit. And if you do find any missing items, they need to be reported by Friday. So that they
I think that is correct. There was an email that went out today reminding people about the deadline for kit of parts checklist. I think it's tomorrow. I don't know what time tomorrow.
At noon. So tomorrow at noon.
Yeah, Friday
so you basically have tonight to go and inventory your kit.
Yep.
Where can we access that online? I looked for it and I couldn't find a list of what we're supposed to have.
There will be a link in the notes for you.
Thank you.
It's probably, if you go to the manuals section of the website, it probably, where you see all the manuals, there's multiple links that they have on there. They should have a kit parts checklist document there.
Okay, thank you.
But also in the notes.
All right.
There are actually 4 separate checklists. So you're going to have your gray tote checklist, your yellow tote checklist, your drive base kit checklist, and your separate items checklist. So I am going to include the link in the notes for you that will tell you exactly where to go to find out what you should have. I highly suggest you take everything out of your kit when you do this. So check something off, fit it in a pile. Check something off, fit it in a separate pile until you've gone through everything to make sure that you have everything that's there.
And with that, on that note about the kit of parts, your first choice priority lists are due on the 16th, I believe. Let me double check that.
It's Saturday that those are due by.
At noon? Do you know? Is it noon or?
I think it's noon on Saturday. I think. If you go to firstchoicebyandymark.com, I think it says it on the website.
1 second.
Jason, it's also in the link that I just pasted, 4.A. If you follow that link, the first choice information is also on the page with the kit of parts stuff.
Okay.
So one page has the kit of parts, the virtual kit, and first choice information all on one page.
Okay. Yep. So it's the 16th at noon. So that's Saturday at noon. You can send in your priority list, and then they'll look at that list and try to fill the lists. Then they'll notify you on the 19th with which parts you received from your priority list, and then on the 22nd, first choice will reopen for regular orders to use up the remaining points that you have. Any questions on that?
So with the first choice, some of the new items that have been added are field related, or not field related, game related. So I think actually you can get at least one more game piece through first choice. Those game pieces are $35 a piece. So it might not be a bad idea to add that to your first choice. The other thing about these balls is if you have some kind of intake, shooter, whatever, you're going to want to test multiple balls and not just one. Because if you tune it in for one and you go to competition, the balls are different, you might run into issues with your mechanism.
Another quick thing on first choice, there's also a sensor board that has an accelerometer and a gyro on there that doesn't cost any credits. So just don't forget about that. It's at the bottom of the page. So you can get a free sensor board, basically. All right, any other questions?
Is there anything else you would recommend a rookie team should really put on their list?
Did you see the original list that Clint created? It was in one of the notes.
I don't think so. If you can just attach
some of the big items. So we can attach it again, the one I made. Some of those items are now missing because they're out of stock of them. So some of the new things to look at is look at speed controllers. There's a couple of speed controllers on there because every team will always need speed controllers. There's a great fluke meter that is actually pretty good quality. So if you don't have a team multimeter, that's always a good choice. Batteries are always good because you always need batteries. You know, the big 12-volt batteries you get, having another one's never a bad idea. You know, for the most part, look at things that are expensive and add those to your list rather than buying bearings and Ethernet cables that don't have any worth to them really compared to some of the other items. So I always try to have us rank the things that cost more higher on our priority and things that cost less lower on our priority because these points are kind of virtual. They're not a one-to-one ratio on dollar amount.
Hmm.
Historically, things that are currently out of stock on first choice, are they just not updating that? And are they going to have stock available of stuff, or it's out of stock and it's out of stock?
It's out of stock. It's out of stock. The reason for first choice is there's companies that say I will give first instead of giving you 3,000 multimeters, I'll give you 500 multimeters. And you'll put it on first choice, and whoever the first 500 teams to get it, get it. Everyone else, sorry, we were only able to donate 500 items. So once those things become out of stock on first choice, it'll no longer be available for anyone really to get. So.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. There was a problem a while back where people wanted to donate to first, and first didn't have, you know, a system to be able to do it, and first choice allowed that.
And you used to get a lot of stuff in your kit that a lot of teams wouldn't use. So first choice allows you to pick and choose stuff that you might use, and rather than just having a whole bunch of stuff that's accumulated year over year. Any other questions on first choice?
We're thinking along the same lines, Jason.
All right.
So we've still got a lot of stuff to cover tonight in the call, so we're going to go ahead and move ahead. If you guys have any questions on this, feel free to shoot us an email, or at the end of the call when we open it up for questions, feel free to give us a shout. We're here to help. So after you're done reading the rules and inventorying your kit of parts and looking at all the updates, the next thing that you guys need to focus on is getting your kit of part chassis moving. So those of you guys, when you were on the call last week and we encouraged you to sign up to come to one of these workshops, if you were not able to go to a kit of parts chassis workshop and get your kit of parts chassis up and running, that needs to be your priority this week. Your kit of parts came with this long rectangular, I think it was like purple and black box. That's your Andy Mark chassis. We are going to recommend extremely highly, almost to the point where we say it should be a requirement for rookie teams to use the kit of parts chassis. There are a ton of teams out there that fabricate their own chassis, that make something from scratch, that machine something. And if you are a rookie team and you're looking at those teams and saying, wow, we should do that, please bear in mind most of the teams who are doing that have been doing this for a decade or longer and have the time and resources and knowledge to do that. The kit of parts chassis is an awesome chassis.
And also, it's not saying that you can't modify or tweak the kit of parts chassis to work or be able to go over the defenses better. I'm not saying you have to use it as is. It's just we would strongly, advise you to be cautious about, buying a $329 item that creates tank treads that you have to have 2 of those items, that Andy Mark also sells. It might look like the easy route to be able to make sure you go over everything, but the chassis you have right there should be able, maybe with a few tweaks, allow for you to go over most of the defenses. Maybe not all of them, but most of them.
So the kit apart chassis, Clint, stop me if I'm wrong, comes with 4-inch wheels on it, correct?
6 inches this year.
6-inch wheels on it. You do not necessarily have to use those wheels that come on it. You can build the frame of it and swap out the wheels. Places like Andy Mark and the Robot Space sell wheels that you can use that will make your chassis a little bit more maneuverable or give you some different ways to drive using the kit apart chassis. So we're going to include a few things in the notes for you. One of them is a video tutorial on the chassis assembly that if you came to the Engineers Workshop, one of our mentors created for you guys to help walk through the chassis. We'll include a link to the kit apart chassis drive base checklist, which will show you a visual pictorial list of everything that was in the kit. And then we'll also include the user guide and instructions for you. So if you have not assembled your chassis, you can get to work on it. But one important note, if you attended the Engineers Workshop or likely any of the other workshops in Michigan, or the if you build a long, wide chassis out of the box, it is too big. Unless you cut your chassis at the workshop you attended, your chassis is too big, and it is not legal at competition. You will need to modify it. But you want to go into this a little bit more?
And the modification that you need to be, the modification that you guys need to do is got to make sure that if you were to take a string and wrap it around the entire area where your bumpers mount, which is called your frame perimeter, if that string, if you stretch it out, is more than 120 inches, then you would not be a legal size robot. Now, note it's 120 inches or less. It's probably a good idea to try to build your robot so that it's maybe 119 inches or less, just to make sure that it fits within the specification. If you have an opening in your chassis, the string actually spans across that opening, and so it doesn't include that portion.
Does anyone have any questions about getting your chassis moving? Another great resource for you guys, if you are not able to attend a workshop, is to find a team locally that can help you. If you don't know what you're doing, like for example me, if I were to be given the kit apart chassis, yes, I could follow the directions. Yes, I could make sure that it got put together correctly, but there's a lot of little nuances about putting it together and things that you want to make sure that you pay closer attention to. Find a team in your area that can help you. If any of you guys are local to Grand Blanc, you are welcome to give me, Brandy, or Clint an email, and you can come to our facility and we'll have some of our students, excuse me, have some of our students and mentors walk you through the process of assembling your chassis. This needs to be your #1 priority this week after you've read the rules, which you should be able to do those things, both of them. You will not be able to do anything at competition unless you have a moving chassis. If you guys start to get to work on this super awesome shooter or this super awesome anything, if your robot cannot move, you cannot use it. So if you have the world's best shooter and you're stuck dead in the water because you didn't make sure that you greased your chassis and now everything inside is sawdust, you want to make sure that you spend the time to do your chassis, do it right. Call us if you need us. We are totally here. The next thing on our list is bumpers. For those of you rookie teams who saw last year's competitions, the robots did not have bumpers. This is the first year in a lot of years that robots have not had bumpers. So this year you will be required to have bumpers at competition. Bumpers are basically some plywood with pool noodles duct taped to it with some red cloth and blue cloth over the outside of them. You can't just build them however you want. There's a huge section in the manual about bumpers, so you have to make sure that you do that, read that, and follow it. And we'll include that information for you in the notes. But Clint and Jason, can you guys touch a little bit about when you're prototyping, why you need to take bumpers into consideration?
Sure, I'll go first, I guess. It doesn't matter. I'll go first. When prototyping, make sure you simulate or at least get some kind of mock-up of bumpers, especially trying to go underneath some of the defenses like the low bar. One of the other things that you have to take into consideration is when your robot is driving up a ramp, when it's departing off of that ground floor, there's a chance that those bumpers might come down and touch the ground and prevent you from your drive wheels from touching anymore. So you're going to want to have those bumpers on. Same thing goes with some kind of intake mechanism to grab the ball. You have to think that there might be these bumpers there because they're only in a specific zone you have to stay within, between 4 and 12 inches, that there's a 5-inch tall bumper that could be anywhere in there on your robot that pushes the ball away or prevents your intake mechanism from actually coming outside of your robot. So you want to be forward thinking that you have these bumpers and they will have to go on. You have to at least cover every corner with, I think, at least 8 inches of bumper on each corner. And then there's also some rules about how far you can go without covering it with bumpers. Once again, that's all going to be in the robot section of the manual.
So rookies, they got some bumper material in their kits, correct?
Yes.
So you're still going to want to make sure that you order the rest of the stuff to make your bumpers. So make sure you go through the manual. Some of this stuff has lead time on it. Team 2337 has learned the hard way more year than one that you should not wait till the last minute to order your bumper stuff. There's a company right here in Michigan who specializes in bumper materials and bumper kits. I think for the trouble of finding everything and sourcing everything and making sure you don't forget anything, we'll include a link to the company that you can order everything from. And like I said, they're right here in Michigan, so you're supporting local business. And the guy also makes standards. If you were at Team 2337's workshop, we had an example there of, I think it was $40, and they'll do everything for you. It's material, printing, in and out the door, $40. So if you guys are a team who doesn't have the time or the resources to worry about a standard and you have $40, or you can maybe have someone in your sponsorship realm supply that for you. Maybe somebody wants to donate $40 and get your standard for you. That's an awesome place to start. So, hey, Clint, what's the name of the company? Robo Promos, right? I think it's Robo Promos. Okay. All right. Awesome. So that kind of brings us to the end of the robot things that we had planned for discussion. Does anyone have any questions about the robot before we move on to the team management task? All right, well, if you come up with something, feel free to chime in. We'll get you going on the answers that we can come up with. All right, so the number one thing that you guys should be doing right now is setting a consistent meeting schedule. And I capitalized the words consistent in the agenda for a reason. There is nothing worse as a mentor than to show up to your meeting and no one else shows up because they didn't know there was a team meeting. Or vice versa, you have a day that you usually meet, say you've been meeting every Wednesday, and now you're like, never mind, we're not meeting today on Wednesday, and everyone shows up and you're not there and the door is locked. Nothing worse than that. Your team will be a lot more productive if you set a consistent meeting schedule. So a lot of people ask, well, when should we meet? That's going to depend totally on your school, your team, your mentors, everything that's going on. some teams, a teacher is the lead mentor, or all of the mentors on the team are teachers. So it might be beneficial for you to meet right after school. So like Team Rush, you guys meet right after school, right, Jason? Like 2:30 to 7 or something like that?
Yeah, so we have study time with the students, usually until the mentors get here. And then we've been going from 5, up to an hour, so we go from 5 to 9.
And our team is the opposite. We do not start meeting until 6:30. We meet 6:30 to 9:30 because nearly all of our mentors are engineers, so they work at companies and they can't get there till then. We do not have a single full-time mentor on our team that is a teacher at our high school. So we are totally different. We don't meet at our school. We meet in a machine shop. So Team Rush and the engineers are two total opposite examples of a meeting schedule that can work. Once you come up with your meeting schedule, you're going to want to make sure that it is accessible to everyone on your team, including parents, students, mentors. Team 2337 uses Google Calendar to make sure that everyone knows about it. Kyle looks like she's on the line, is suggesting also that you need to make sure that you have a way to tell people if a meeting is canceled. Remind 101, it used to be called Remind 101, is a great way to inform your students if something happens. On our team, we only use Remind for emergency cases, so like last-minute cancellations, that kind of thing, because we want our students to rely on using the calendar. So, like, how often should you meet? That's also going to depend on what you're doing. The engineers meet Monday through Thursday from from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sundays, 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Don't have a heart attack over there. I know you guys are all muted, so I can't tell if you're having heart attacks. You do not have to meet that often. You meet what's good for you. I'm going to recommend that you meet at least 3 days during the week for a couple of hours and have a long build session on one of the 2 weekend days. The long session is important because we found our rookie year, when we were only meeting for like 2 hours a day, basically by the time we got everything out and started working on it, it was time to clean up. So having a long day, I mean, granted ours is 12 hours, but having something that might be 5 hours or 6 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday will be very beneficial to your team so that you can continue doing things and prototyping and stuff. So you want to make sure that if you're meeting at your school, you want to make sure that you have access to your building on Saturdays or Sundays or in the evening. If you are a school employee and you have a key to get into the door, that's perfect, but make sure that your school knows that you're going to be there. You don't want the cops showing up because the alarm went off at the school and you guys are there building your robots. So make sure you have passed the word along to your administrator that you're going to be there. Kyle is telling me that that it happened to them, that there was a flood in the building and they were working and the cops came in. So you don't want that to happen to you. So make sure your administration knows that you're going to be there and knows your meeting schedule. If you want to if you happen to create a Google Calendar and that's how you're going to keep your dates available to your team, take 2 seconds and send it to somebody in your administration, your principal, your assistant principal, your club's representative, whatever it is that's in charge of you at your school. And the last thing I want to touch on with a meeting schedule is remember to leave the option open to meet more often if they're not progressing and meeting your deadlines. So have your students have the understanding that if you're going to meet, say you're going to meet on Saturday from 10 to 4, have them know that 4 is a soft ending time and that you might have to stay a couple extra hours if you need to get those last few things done, or if you're not meeting your deadlines, or maybe you're progressing very, very well and you're like, hey, let's stay an extra couple hours and get this done until it works. So let your parents know that your meeting schedule might be fluid. You might run into some parents that are like, you said the meeting's ending at 4 o'clock. I'm going to be there to pick my kid up at 4 o'clock, whether he's done or not. And that's just something that you are going to have to deal with as a coach. So does anyone have any questions about your meeting schedule? I know we're busting through all of this stuff, but remember that all of this information will be in the notes too.
I have one quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
Are all of your members required at all of these sessions?
That's going to depend on your team policy. Our team, Team 2337, only has about 5 mandatory meetings a year, and those are usually informational meetings about like policies and getting documents signed and stuff like that. We on our team do not make it required that any student be at a certain number of meetings or attend a certain number of meetings or have a certain number of hours. Our belief in this program is you will get out of the program what you put into it. So if you are one of the students who shows up on time, stays late, does jobs, works hard, you're going to be given more opportunities on the engineers. Where, you know, Susie slacks a lot, shows up and sits on YouTube on her phone and doesn't take on any tasks, she's not necessarily going to be gaining the experiences or have the privileges on things like drive team or pit crew or those kind of glory jobs, if you will, that most students are seeking. I would tell your students, on our team, the expectation is if you are a member of this team, you should want to be here every day. You should want to work hard. You should want to do these things because you are a member of a team and the team does better when everyone works together. Our only requirement on our team is to travel with the team. You have to have a minimum of a 2.5 GPA and no missing assignments in order for us to be able to excuse you from school. So our kind of thought is anyone can be on the team, but in order to travel with the team, you have to have your schoolwork in order. I don't know if that answers your question.
We do similar things on Team Rush with the requirement for grades. I don't want to say we require the students to be there, but again, like Brandy said, the more you're there, the more you're going to get out of the team. And again, those leadership roles like being a driver or being a sub-team captain go to the students that are there more often. I don't think we've ever had an issue. We still keep track of attendance, but I don't think we've ever had an issue with students that didn't attend meetings not being able to travel. For the most part, our students are here most every night that we have a meeting, and sometimes it's hard to get them out. So.
Okay, thanks for your input on that.
Yeah, there will definitely be those students, like Jason just said, that you have to kick out, that you will be like, put down the wrench and walk away. We're coming back tomorrow. 5 more minutes. Yeah.
I'm one of those students, by the way.
Jason, you were on Rush, weren't you?
Yep.
As a high schooler?
Yep.
So Clinton and Jason both are first alumni running first team. So you guys have got some pretty good experience on the phone with you today. All right, if no one else has any questions about the meeting schedule, we're going to try to breeze through a couple things because we're already over time for tonight. So the next thing is to start looking into companies to order team uniforms. I know competition seems like far away, but the lead time to get your team shirt sizes, to create your designs, to pick out your designs, to get them printed, to get them back to you, to get a check cut from your school, all of those kind of things can turn around really fast. So this may be something that you want to look into locally, to have a local t-shirt company donate some or all of your uniforms to you. Sometimes if you can have them write, uniforms provided by, Jay's Screen Printing, they'll give it to you at a discount. So we'll include a lot of information in there about what you need to do and the questions you need to start thinking about. This is not something that you need to like order your uniforms next week. It's just something to start looking into for now so that you guys have the lead time that you need. The next thing is communicating with your administration. I cannot stress enough how much easier it is to do everything when you have the support of your administration, from field trip policies to overnight policies to days off for your teachers and mentors. Make sure that you're keeping your administration in communication with what you're doing. On our team, and I think on Team Rush too, there is a 30-day lead time for an overnight travel. So our team, if we are going to do an overnight or out-of-state travel, we have to have board approval. And in order to get board approval, we have to be put on the meeting agenda as a topic of discussion, and that has to happen 30 days prior to the event. So if you guys don't know what your school's field trip policy is, you need to look into that now. Like if you are a team management mentor, after you've set your consistent meeting schedule, the next thing you need to do is look into your field trip policy. I cannot stress enough how disappointing it would be to go to apply or to go to leave for your first competition and be told by your Board of Education that you cannot go because you didn't get proper approval. That would be terrible for you. And even more than just asking them for stuff, keep in communication with them to update of your progress. Our team, once a week, we have one of our students attach a picture and a short little paragraph about what we're up to. Even if it's just we're prototyping, we built our chassis, here's a picture of our team. For them to be able to put names with faces and send them an email every single week is amazing. We send one to our principal, to our assistant principal, and to our Board of Education. So then later on in the year, when they are congratulating you on your successful rookie season and thanking you for all that you've done, they have so many memories to put with you, and they're much more likely to support you if they know that you're working hard and that you are dedicated as a mentor and that your students are dedicated to making this program better. Because what district doesn't want to promote something that is increasing science and technology, engineering and math awareness in students after school and doing these awesome things? So that's just a little plug for you that'll make your life a lot easier. The next thing that I want to talk about is recruiting students and mentors. Your team can run with a small handful of mentors, but it's going to be difficult. So we're going to include a list in the notes of possible mentors or parent roles that you're going to want to kind of be scouting for. The best place to start looking for mentors is your parents. Find out where they work. You never know, you might have, you know, a high-end GM design engineer as one of the dads on your team, and you wouldn't know unless you asked. So there are also different perks for Chrysler employees and GM employees and some other places offer incentives for volunteering with FIRST. So your parents are the best place to start. Then go to local engineering companies, tool and die shops, etc., for you to ask if maybe they have any mentors that they can donate, or maybe they can donate some work for you. Then if you are a teacher at the school, even if you're not a teacher at the school, go to your principal or administration and ask if the shop teacher, the tech ed teacher, the engineering teachers, anything at your school can help you. You might be able to gain a couple of people that will really benefit your team. So that's looking for mentors. The next thing is looking for students. Either yourself as the mentor or a student on your team should make a flyer that has the contact information and your meeting schedule for your team and distribute it. Whether you are at a parent night, a school night, put it in the counseling office, anything. When someone walks into your school's office and says, hey, this robotics team looks really cool, how can I join it? You have something ready to hand to them. It's very difficult to, in that moment, try to write down contact information or tell them their meeting schedule because they're going to forget. Our team frequently does this on a quarter sheet size of paper, so it's really easy to have your school run off copies of that says, you know, which days we meet and the email and phone number of a mentor on your team. This will be so beneficial for you to have. It will take you 10 minutes to do and save you a ton of headache. This is also great for you to give some of these to your students and to your parents so that if a parent says, oh yeah, Sally, I'll come help you, that they have their contact information. Or if a parent is somewhere and they say, hey, yeah, I'd like to donate to the robotics team. I've got money or tools or resources or materials to give, that they can give your contact information and meeting schedules to a sponsor. Take the time to do that. If you are short on students, I would say a good-sized team for your rookie year is going to be between 12 and 25 students. That's usually about the right size if you're going to build your robot, have a presence at competition, possibly apply for a couple of the awards that are available to you. Anywhere between 12 and 25 people is a good team size. If you don't have that, you guys should start to look into scheduling an open house or robotics information night. This is where you can have information, talk about when your competitions are, what you're going to be doing. If you have your moving chassis, having it there so people can drive it. These are things that will be very beneficial to you. Put it in your school newsletter, your announcements on your school's website, on Facebook, any other method of communication that you can in order to start recruiting people for your team. Does anybody have any questions on recruitment or communicating with your administration or uniforms? No? I'm covering everything?
I got a question.
Sure.
How many mentors would you say is a good amount for a rookie team?
For what?
I will say that you should have probably at least 2 mechanical mentors, 1 or 2 mechanical mentors, some kind of electrical mentor, even if it's just a parent who has wiring skills, some kind of programming mentor, even if it's a person who doesn't know how to program but can be there to keep the programmers on task. We have found on our team that programmers are the least task-oriented people in the world, and that they get distracted by everything and they wait till the last minute. So even just having someone there that can keep them on task and help them develop a skill, like a list of deliverables, and keep them on task is good for that. Then I would say you need 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 team organization people to handle doing things like T-shirts and meals and keeping your stims up to date and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, mechanical, electrical, programming, and then team management is what you're going to need. We will include a list in the notes of like all of the jobs that need to be taken care of, if you will, and kind of where you can start recruiting and the kind of careers that those people have that could be useful to your team as mentors.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Chime in if you do. So the last thing is you're going to want to download the admin manual. Just like the robot has manuals, so does the admin manual. As a team organization mentor, the admin manual will be very valuable to you. It has things like tips for you for team organization, what the events are going to be like, information about your robot transportation, your robot lockup form, which is what you're going to need on bag day in order for your robot to be locked up. Section 6 is all about the awards. This is very important. There are several awards that are available only to rookie teams. We'll go into awards a little bit more in another call. And then team advancement. So you're going to want to go through and download the admin manual. We'll include a link to it for you in the notes and read over that. We won't go too much into that because it's something that you guys need to read, and then if you have any questions about it, you can go ahead and give us a call. Just a few things. So a couple of the things that we want you guys to just point out to you guys as rookie teams, a couple of tips and tricks, is whenever you are communicating with anyone in the FIRST community, whether it's on this call, sending emails, talking to Gail Alpert, anything, leaving voicemails, anything, make sure that you say your name, your school, and your team number. So like when you sign on here on the rookie conference calls, you can be like, this is Brandy from team 2337 in Grand Blanc. That gives people, because I'll be honest with you, I know a lot of sports and other activities, you are known by your school name. I promise you, you will be known by your team number. There are so many teams that I have known for years in this organization, and I could not tell you what school they're from if I had to. It's team number is what's going to matter. So make sure that every student, mentor, parent, everyone on your team knows your team number. You're going to be at the competitions, you'll be arranged numerically by team number, you'll be referred to by your team number, your team number is what's going to be written on your robot. Everything is team number, so make sure that you guys know that. Secondly, if you don't already have a team, on your bumpers. If you don't already have a team name or a logo or a mascot or anything like that, just start thinking about it. It's up to you whether or not you want to identify with your school's mascot. Neither Team Rush or the Engineers have associations with our school's mascot. We are the Engineers, and Grand Blanc is the Bobcat, and Team Rush is Team Rush, which stands for Respect, Unity, Spirit, and Heart. Aha, I got it. And they're at Clarkson High School, which are the Wolves. So neither of us chose to identify with that. It's up to you whether or not you want to. Some teams, if they, it's like they're like the Bobcats, they choose to be like the RoboCats or whatever. It's up to you however you want to do it. Some teams associate, some teams don't. Totally up to you. That's just something that you need to start thinking about, going over with your team, coming up with a team name and a team image. Lastly, you're going to want to start thinking about whether or not you want to build any of the field elements for practice. When you're prototyping, you're going over the bump chassis, you have to have a bump to go over. So whether or not you want to build some of these things, there are plywood drawing versions available for you to do this. Teams have spent anywhere between $800 and $2,000 building their fields. So you're going to want to be cautious of exactly what you commit yourself to building, because it can get really pricey really quickly. The solution to this is that there are lots of veteran teams who have built some or all of these field elements, and you can call them in practice. Unlike football, where you never go to your other team's field to practice, teams are looking for other teams to come help, or to come to their field or facility and practice, because now it turns into kind of sort of playing the game. So Team 2337 right now is in process of building some of them. So we'll have some to use. The Kettering First Center in Flint, if any of you went to the first kickoff in Kettering or came to our workshop, there is a full-sized field there that if you set up an appointment to go use, that it's free for use. And there's some down in the Detroit and like Novi area that are available for your use too. So we'll include information on who to contact if you need to use the field. And that's all I've got. Jason, Clint.
I think I'm good. Is there any other questions out there?
We had a question on how do you determine the staging position in the neutral zone? Is that randomly picked, or do you get to pick exactly where you put your robot in the neutral zone?
So each team gets to decide where they want to, each robotics team, each robot gets to decide where they want to put in the neutral zone. You have to at least be touching the auto line. I think it's touching the auto line. You cannot cross over the midline, which is right on the center of the field. And, of course, you're going to need to do discussions with your alliance, right? So before the match, when you're on double deck and on deck, you're going to discuss things with your alliance, maybe what defenses you want to try to put out to have the opponents try to go through to get to your castle. When you're doing that, you're also going to be basically bidding you know, not bidding, but discussing which location everyone wants. If everyone, say, builds a 16-inch or 14-inch tall robot to go under the low bar, and everyone designs an autonomous to take the ball that they have in auto, go under the low bar, and score it in the low goal, if everyone on that alliance wants to do that, someone's going to have to win that discussion, because not everyone's going to be able to do that. And usually the best way to settle those disputes is by having scouting data to show who's the most successful at it. But if you all have different kind of robots, you can start anywhere along that line, as long as you're not in the secret passageway, you're not over the midline, and that you are at least touching the auton line, which I think is 1.5 feet, I think, away. That's just off the top of my head from the midline.
Okay, so there's like no X's on the field where you have to start on this X, and this X. Okay.
Nope, and you can point it. So just because you know, humans typically think in, you know, everything 90 degrees and stuff, you don't have to have your robot facing forward. You know, you can angle it on a 45-degree so that it can, you know, maybe you have an auton that, you know, a secondary auton where one person goes under the low bar, and then you have a auton where you turn towards the low bar, have a 5-second delay to let them go under, and then you fall in behind them. So, you know, you can point it anywhere as long as you follow the requirements that they say about starting an autonomous. And the other note of autonomous, you got to make sure you're all within your frame perimeter. You can't have anything sticking out of your frame perimeter.
Hey, Clint, are you able to use props this year to set up? I know in years past we cannot. So is that because I know now you could, the Spy can have props?
Are you saying like jigs to align you to the field?
Yeah.
I know that there's, I don't recall if they said anything about, I know there's a section that says you can't have large delays between, you know, setting up for auton, and they do talk about having tape measures and stuff you're not allowed to use. So
right.
I don't know the answer. I think it's more erring on the side of you're not allowed to use jigs. So as you probably, you know, do often, you know, a common, you know, thing is to use your feet. So if you want to measure something, you can use your feet real quick to measure so that you're always in the same autonomous, right?
Yeah, you've seen me set up before, huh?
No, I know. Some people lay on the ground, you know.
You guys have done an awesome job tonight.
I didn't go into my rant yet, so.
I heard I missed
anyone?
I'm sorry about that.
All right, I don't know if we still have anyone left on the line. It's 20 after 7, but we would rather spend 20 extra minutes with you guys and make sure you have the information you need than cut it off at 7 and leave you hanging. So if there's anyone else on the line who has any questions, now is the time.
I got one.
Thanks, buddy.
My question is, would it be a good idea to like make several programs for the same thing, say for the autonomous period, like making 2 programs, one that you would download if your teammate agreed to, say, wait 5 seconds before going under the low bar, and then another one if you were the first one to go under the low bar, that kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Some people will put physical switches on their robot so that before they leave, they turn the robot on, and they will turn like kind of like binary switches on the robot to tell it which autonomous routine to run. There's also other things you can buy. I think Rev Robotics makes a thing that plugs into the robo-reel that has a digital display where you can more or less pick your auton from there. I've heard of teams using their driver station to pick multiple autons. You know, our team, I mean, granted, like I said, we talk the crazy side of things. We've even talked about having a menu system where you decide what position am I starting at during auto, what defense am I going over in auto. Once I go through that defense, where do I want to go after that? Do I want to shoot? Do I want to not shoot? You know, all those kind of things to answer, and hopefully our programming will tell us, you know, based on those answers to the question, it'll determine what our autonomous is going to do. But yes, having multiple autons or having a way to set a delay before would be a good idea for teams to have in case someone, if someone's better at going under the low bar and maybe scoring, you definitely as an alliance member want to let them do that because it's going to help you and it's going to help your alliance as a whole.
Yeah, being a contributing member of an alliance is one of the best things that you can do, no matter if you're a rookie team or a 10-year team, because working together as a 3-team alliance is so important. And if you go onto the field and you are prepared to be part of an alliance no matter what the plan is, that makes you so valuable, and honestly, it'll move you up people's pick lists like you wouldn't believe.
Especially this year than any other year. This year is a year about alliances working together as a team to complete the objectives. It's not a game where you need to do everything yourself and hopefully everyone tries their hardest to score the most. It is a game about working together, assisting it to maximize your scoring potential as an alliance, not as an individual.
And it's not to say that rookie teams cannot run alliances, because I've seen it many, many a time. But for the most part, you guys as rookies need to be prepared to go to the field and not necessarily be told what to do, but to be prepared to have veteran team members teach you the ropes and kind of help guide you of what's normal in a match. And honestly, some of these veteran teams will get onto the field and you'll be like, whoa, they just did everything and we just have a moving chassis. And to not take offense to that. There are some veteran teams who probably should still be using the kit apart chassis that aren't, and there are some veteran teams who will think that they can do everything and they can't. But as a rookie team, veteran teams are going to have a lot to teach you guys. And like you said, being prepared for anything and having an alternate plan for your robot makes you like one of the best rookie teams in the world.
And like Brandy said too, so as a rookie team, and we kind of already talked about not biting off more than you can chew, if you can consistently do a couple tasks every time and every match you go out and you do those tasks, the other teams are watching you, right? The other teams are scouting you and understanding what you can do. And if you're that consistent, that, again, goes a long way in helping you to get picked and probably helps you throughout getting ranking points.
So, yeah, even more on the topic because I love this topic, sorry. The common thing that I say is, it's very easy at an event to pick the top 3 robots at an event. It's very hard to pick the 24th robot at the event, right? And the people that are looking to pick the 24th robot at the event are looking for consistency, right? Because they want the last member, their last pick of the line selection for the #1 alliance to be someone who is consistent, who runs, who does their job over and over again, right? Someone in the 8th alliance might be looking for someone more sporadic who might have an extreme high and extreme lows and hoping that through the elimination they get the extreme highs instead of the lows. But yeah, so consistency, the #1 alliance, #2 alliance team captains are looking for people who are consistent time and time again, and they go out on the field and do the same thing every single time, and they can count on that, even if it's smart driving.
All right, is there any other questions? All right. Thank you, everybody, for calling in tonight, and we'll send out the minutes and the video link and the information for next week's conference call. Feel free to email Brandy, Clint, and myself if you have any other questions during the week, and everyone else have a great rest of your week. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brandy, Clint, again, you guys did a great job tonight. You too, Jay.
Thanks. Yeah. And Kyle, if you ever want to talk, you can also call me personally if you want to talk to me and pick my brain, okay?
You're funny.
So
I miss you guys.
Awesome.
I was home.